Before this video starts, I want you to think of someone. The first person you'd text if something incredible happened today. Or the first person you'd call if your entire world suddenly fell apart. Don't overthink it. Whoever came to mind, that's your person.
Now here's something strange. Nobody taught you to look for someone like that. Nobody sat you down and explained why having people you trust matters. Nobody gave you a manual on how to find your people. And yet, almost every human spends their life doing exactly that, searching for people who understand them, people who show up, people who make the world feel less uncertain.
It feels so natural that we rarely stop to ask why. Why do friend groups form without anyone planning them? Why do strangers become chosen families? Why do millions of people who have never met each other proudly call themselves the same fandom? Why do gamers build clans, students form circles, coworkers split into their own quiet tribes? The easy answer is because we're social. But that's not really an answer. That's just restating the question. Here's the version of the question most people don't ask. The modern world has supermarkets, hospitals, governments, delivery apps. You can technically survive without ever belonging to a tight-knit group. So if tribes are no longer essential the way they once were, why does the need for them feel so essential? Why does loneliness hurt the way it does? Why does rejection sting in a way that feels almost physical? Why does finding your people feel like something closer to relief than just happiness? Those aren't random feelings. They're signals. And to understand what they're signaling, you have to go back much further than you'd expect. For most of human history, being alone wasn't just uncomfortable, it was one of the most dangerous things that could happen to you. Humans aren't fast. We don't have claws, we don't have thick fur or natural armor. Alone, we're not particularly impressive animals. But in groups, we became something else entirely. Groups hunted together, shared food, protected each other, raised children, and remembered things no single person could hold alone. The humans who stayed connected survived. The ones who built trust, read emotions, maintained relationships, they were more likely to pass those traits on. Over thousands of generations, the need to belong didn't just become a preference, it became wiring.
Which is why loneliness hurts the way hunger hurts, not as a metaphor, as a signal. Your brain treats social disconnection as a threat, because for most of human history, it was one. Losing the group didn't just mean loneliness, it could mean losing everything.
But here's what makes this more interesting than just a survival story. The world changed. The instinct didn't disappear with it. It adapted. Today, we don't gather around campfires to survive the night. We gather in group chats, in gaming servers, in classrooms that split into their own invisible circles, in fandoms that span countries and languages and time zones, in comment sections where strangers who've never met somehow feel like they already know each other. Different containers, the same ancient need. Think about any community you've ever felt genuinely part of. It probably had its own language, inside jokes that wouldn't make sense to anyone outside, its own unwritten rules about what's acceptable and what isn't, its own sense of who belongs and who doesn't quite fit, a shared identity, a shared story. It might not look like an ancient tribe, but it's doing the same work, giving you a place to belong, a place to be understood without having to explain yourself, a place where, at least for a moment, the world feels less like something you're navigating alone. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because the same instinct that builds belonging also builds walls. Tribes need an inside, which means they always create an outside. The same psychology that makes your friend group feel safe is the same psychology that makes a rival group feel threatening. The same wiring that makes shared identity powerful is the same wiring that makes us versus them feel so automatic. You don't have to choose it consciously. It happens beneath the surface, in who you trust by default, in who you give the benefit of the doubt, in who you assume the worst about without quite realizing you're doing it. History is full of what that instinct looks like at scale. So is the internet. The tribe instinct is not good or bad. It's powerful. And power doesn't come with instructions.
So why do humans need tribes? Not because we die without them, not anymore, but because the brain that kept your ancestors alive is still running the same code. It still tracks who's in the group and who isn't. It still treats belonging as safety and exclusion as danger. It still searches constantly, quietly, sometimes desperately, for the people it can trust. That search didn't begin with you. It began long before you were born, before your parents were born, before anyone in your family line had a name you'd recognize. Humans were already reaching for each other, because reaching for each other was how they made it through. So the next time your phone lights up with a message from your people, or someone saves you a seat without being asked, or you find a corner of the internet that somehow feels like home, remember this. That feeling isn't small, it's ancient. Your search for your people didn't begin with you. It's part of a story that has been unfolding for hundreds of thousands of years. Long before history was written, humans survived because they found one another. Maybe we're still doing the same thing today.